Stitch vs. Rocket is an episode I used to feel the same as I did towards Poe vs. Iron Fist. Death Battle finally uses an animated film character that I like, and it's against a Marvel character I couldn't care less about. But then closer to the episode being announced, I had warmed up to the idea a lot, and then I got very excited for it when it was revealed as the next time. The difference between this and Poe vs. Iron Fist though, is that the Marvel character isn't complete dead weight this time. Unlike Danny, where I'd lost any interest in him I had as a child, the MCU got me very attached to Rocket, to the point where I like that version of the character more than I like Stitch, and I was excited enough to see his comic counterpart get covered. Stitch was definitely my preferred when only factoring in those comics though, and I think that's reflected in me getting much more out of his analysis. Lilo and Stitch is one of my top 3 favourite Disney movies, and I even like 2 of the 3 sequels despite having not seen the TV show, so hearing their coverage of him, his story, his weird abilities, and even weirder lists of spin-off material put the biggest smile on my face all the way through. It even has one of my all-time favourite cutaway gags. This sounds like the exact kind of hypothetical one of my friends would bring up in a Discord call. It stands on the same level as the explosion chart in Madara's plan for me. I also love how they brought up the ads with Stitch in the other Disney movies, and then have him come in to announce himself as the winner in the end. It's a fun way to bring it up without placing too much emphasis on it and turning this into another Deadpool episode. Rocket's analysis was pretty enjoyable too. Not much to really say other than I liked learning about him and his weapons. Wiz and Bimsic having different views on whether he was a raccoon was a cool way to work out how ambiguous the comics are with that, and the cutaway gives Boomstick the raccoon hat from Parks and Rec, and I love that. Across both rundowns, the editing is good, but I wouldn't say it's one of the best of all time in that regard. There are quite a few instances of footage not matching what they're saying, comic text not being readable, these weird blurry backgrounds for some of the anime footage, and way too many jokes that cut the music, which I already started to get a little tired of in Chosen Undead vs. Dragonborn, but it felt like they did it almost every time they told a joke in this one, and it just started to get annoying after a point. But generally, I think it mostly looks good, and there are a few really sick motion graphics thrown in here and there. The animation then. The easiest way to describe it is that it's just fun. There are so many great comedic bits and character interactions that put just as much of a smile on my face as the analysis did. Though before I get to those, I guess I can go through my usual checklist of consistent positives in just about every modern episode. The environment looks amazing. Having it take place in Space Hawaii was an inspired choice that manages to fit both characters in different ways. The custom sprites look very nice and emote well, which lets the jokes land even better. The voice acting is probably my favourite of the season so far. Stitch isn't the kind of character that needed many coherent lines, but Delta and Engel Sorrell had a fun portrayal of the Little Blue Goblin, and I like how annoyed Jess Shine manages to sound for the majority of Rocket's lines. Jailhouse Rocket is also a fantastic track to back everything up with. The Elvis vibe fits them both really well. Stitch for obvious reasons, and Rocket because the Guardians movies are iconic for using old school popular music as part of their soundtracks. This style helps it feel really unique, like it has more of its own identity than any other Death Battle track. Not to say the others went together at all, but this one especially feels like nothing else they've ever made, and I love it for that. You know what else I loved about the fight? Just about everything else. The setup works fine, we don't really need to see what launched Stitch, and it makes sense that Rocket would be upset over his ship being destroyed. I misheard the Flark face line at first because I didn't know that was an actual thing Rocket says in the comics, so I thought there were 2 other things it could have been, and one of them is infinitely more funny than the other. Stitch is only defending himself at first, and we get to see Rocket's superior weaponry disarm him. Then Stitch only starts going for blood when Rocket takes out the necklace that Lilo gave him. I'm glad I watched Leroy and Stitch now because it means I understand the significance of this scene and there was an actual payoff for that hour of my life. Stitch then hits Rocket with a yo mama joke, and I like that Rocket shows to understand Stitch's language while still keeping what he said vague enough to where it's open to interpretation. This opening just keeps upping the conflict and making it more believable that they'd want to rip each other apart. The start of the combat is a little on the slower side, but that's fine. Things haven't fully picked up quite yet. Stitch catching the plasma ball and it burning him is a fun little visual gag, and I like Rocket being disgusted by Stitch's weird alien spit, which allows him to get in close for a short combo before launching Rocket into the forest. This is where Rocket's able to take the advantage though with all his various traps that he set up. There's a brief but very clean looking hand-drawn shot before one of my favourite bits is Stitch running back and forth as the guns light him up. All as Rocket's chilling and having a great time. The sprite motions in this portion of the battle are especially smooth. I haven't checked out Indie Cross yet, but maybe I should because this segment was done by the guy who animates that show and I've heard very good things about it. Stitch is then understandably pissed and tries to charge at Rocket, who sets him up for a big kaboom, and it's a really funny and charming sequence. I also love how Rocket takes the opportunity to grab himself a drink, but then he eats shit when the shockwave hits him. His voice lines might have mostly been him being annoyed, but he gets across that he's a cocky bastard who's having fun when he's winning through his body language and expressions alone. This shockwave also sets up one of the most genius parts of the fight as it creates a massive tidal wave for Stitch to surf on with a piece of the Milano as he makes his way back to Rocket. And then he says something so unbelievably offensive that Rocket's immediate reaction is that he needs to die right the fuck now, and he calls on the Thanos Buster gun. That is one of my favourite jokes we've had in a Death Battle animation for a long time. There's a fun little bit where Stitch gets launched back into the wave by a missile, which he then seemingly uses as a means to power up. He latches onto Rocket's shield, but Rocket's able to use that as a means to keep him in place long enough to grab his Wincon and shoot Stitch into the ocean. I've heard all the criticisms thrown towards the scene that it directly contradicts the conclusion, and I can't say I disagree with them. I do think it would have been better if Stitch had been able to partly avoid the blast, only having it hit and then vaporize some of him. Then he can fall into the ocean where the rest of it plays out as normal. But I'm also not too bothered by it, especially since Stitch is technically the one to land his own Wincon first much earlier in the fight. As it is, this allows for a decently tense ending, which also ends with a very creative kill where Stitch is able to repurpose the gun he previously made Rocket drop, then skewer him with it as he breaks his control device thing for the space station that he launches him into. The fireworks feel like the perfect note to end the fight on, and the ending bit with the ice cream guy is everything the Cabbage Man jokes wish they could be. The conclusion was also solid. I like that they were both capable of killing each other, so speed and smarts was what it came down to. Rocket did definitely have the edge in smarts in the battle though, so mark that as the one area where I am a little bothered by the fight not matching the conclusion. Would have been neat to see Rocket lose as cool, and that's what could have given Stitch his opening. So that was Rocket vs. Stitch, more or less. I had less to say about the content of this one than I usually do. It's a pretty light episode that just wants to be a fun, chill time, and I think it pulls that off more or less perfectly, with plenty of funny bits and a cool dynamic where Stitch is on the back foot for a lot of the fight, but is only in any real danger towards the end since he's durable enough to tank everything else Rocket can throw at him. The analysis is really entertaining, the presentation of the fight is excellent. I don't have any major gripes with it, all things considered. If I had watched this in the same way I normally do, then this would have been a pretty easy second favourite of the season for me at the bare minimum. But that's not what happened with this one. The day this episode came out was actually the first day I was heading out on a week-long holiday to meet up with a lot of my online friends, many of which are in the group that I usually watch these episodes with. And after almost 40 hours of being stuck in airport hell on the way there, getting to sit back and watch this episode with all of them after finally getting to meet them all was the perfect way to start that holiday off. I'm the kind of guy who usually connects things to memories I have with them. Having a memorable first experience with something can definitely shoot it even higher for me than it would have gotten off the content alone. There are only maybe 4 other episodes I can say I have a similar kind of sentimental attachment to, and with Stitch vs. Rocket now having the association of what started off one of the best weeks of my life, I can say it's joining that club. That's not to say it would have gotten a free pass as one of my favourite episodes ever regardless, since one of those other 4 is Boba Fett vs. the Predator, which I still like, but nowhere near to the same extent as the others. But I think Rocket vs. Stitch does manage to hold up as an episode I'd love even without that association. It seems like a safe bet to call this my favourite of the season, and even one of my favourite episodes of all time. Easy 10 out of 10. And I know it might sound like I'm incredibly biased in that, because I am. If you were looking for objective, unbiased analysis where I cover anything deeper than what I do and do not personally like about an episode, then I don't know where you've been, but that has never been the focus of these videos. Stitch vs. Rocket is the episode of the season that connected with me the most, and I'm not expecting anything else this year to reasonably top it. If they can though, I'll be impressed. This was written before Vader vs. Obito, so I'm gonna go off script with the rest of this. Even Vader vs. Obito, as good as it was, didn't quite surpass this for me. Which, don't expect a video on that episode as well. I'm sorry Kian, you had a phenomenal writing debut, but I think the window for me to cover this one has passed. If you want to see the reaction highlights to it though, my friend GalacticAttorney is going to be uploading them on his channel, which will also be the case for any other episodes I happen to skip this year. You can go watch his and Nem's review of Rocket vs. Stitch as well, by the way. And also GA uploaded the full uncut group reaction to this episode to his channel if you're interested in checking that out. I'm just going to be having the usual highlights on here, but if you want to see the full, mostly uncut thing on his channel, then go check that out. I think that just about does it for this video, so that highlight reel is all that's left. I hope you enjoy them if you stick around to check them out, and yeah, that's about it. See you for Phoenix vs. Raven, probably.
Let's go! Let's go! Oh yeah, no, yeah! Let's go! Where's Brenda? Hell yeah! That's like the Jumbo Champagne.
From the alien threats coming to get him. It's only right. Oh, yeah. He's a genius.
Ex-wife. Am I right?
Oh. No, wait, what the hell? Better.
I'm so disappointed.
When you start paying the alimony.
Well, Stitch's incredible buffet really
just continue.
Are you coming back? No?
It's over, Wiz. It's over. 200, which can make the sandwiches gigantic. Oh, and trick enemies. That's the
entire universe.
Speaking of black holes.
Okay, like make Thanos flinch, so I think
Dropping up to wipe out a black hole.
goodbye, Rocket.
No!
My boy! Top no worse for the win. What the fuck? Like you do. It's a complete
Oh no, Rockets.
Oh,
It's over!
It's so fucking over!
Y'all haven't even heard Rocket's first.
It's over!
Rocket.
Yeah! Rocket Raccoon!
It's like Spider-Man.
He likes McDonald's?
Yeah, that's actually a consistent character trait.
Why McDonald's?
I bet he loves the Grimace shake.
No, he likes Ribbit shake.
Probably, he would drink it. I don't know if he'd like it.
Why does he like McDonald's?
Well, I don't know. He just comments on it. Like he says like someone's like nothing good ever comes from Earth, and he's like shut the English bucket. And then another time he's like a bum like living homeless on the streets of Earth, and he's just like laying in a pile of McDonald's food like that he
That's
ate.
show me those scans.
Yeah, I can.
Battle the galaxy,
Hell yeah.
defending the free peoples of the cosmos from all manner of alien menace.
Great
For
scene.
price, of course. Don't lecture me on Raccoon.
That's the Parks and Recreation hat, holy shit.
Tiny little bit. Here's places as quiet as earthworms digging. That's where they grab.
Nerd emoji.
Why is he so knowledgeable on Raccoon?
Stealthy glass
Literally you.
Yeah, cause he's a raccoon.
As I was saying, Rocket became the team's
Mix.
It's a literal gun.
That was not even Take the Park Gunner Gun will know
Move. Kabam.
that does belong to a super scroll, one of the deadliest warriors
Hey, my ghost!
that could split up
My ghost works!
Crazy. Like the
Thank you.
Alright.
Oh, okay.
Alright, get up the telescope.
the same way I can't strong enough to survive a supermassive black hole.
Oh, he's got the pin particles.
Scratches.
The very same purple Shrek who's battled universe busters like Thor, Hulk, and
Odin?
Oh, I guess we just went.
Oh, no, not this feat.
Brilliant of a second.
The friggin' dark dimension. No wonder Star-Lord called.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, that was good.
That was good.
And the data from all possibilities.
It's time for a death battle!
The goat! It's the guy.
Oh, it sounds like the sound design best. Well, I think I saw that cool Rocket.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, here's the best joke. Here's the great joke.
I'm so glad I've watched the movie to get back up to that.
Did you say about my mother?
Your mom joke.
Yeah, I always wanted to.
Hey, yo,
Stitch.
go on, Stitch.
Oh, there. The way he's killed. Oh, that is so just
Yeah, that's right. Let's get him right I think that was for a borrow shot. Yeah, any cross
Oh my god.
He's just enjoying it all.
They have fun.
Oh my.
Oh no. Oh my god!
What button isn't enough?
Oh! Oh my god! No way! No fucking way!
No, there's more to go.
Come on, Stitch.
Oh, this is so sad.
Yes! Oh no! No!
Oh my god!
He's put up a fight though. God damn it!
Jesus.
It's okay.
To speed. Rocket has dodged lasers and his gun.
That was so sad. Second next to the season, so we're not even a concept.
Oh, he's so cute.
Studs.
Oh my. That was so awesome. I was fucking amazing.
Alright.
That was so good.
What is it? Time for next time. You were right in front of the camera.